Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to the video tutorial series of the web development. In this lecture, we will learn about JavaScript validation. So these are the topics that will be covered in this lecture. That is JavaScript validation. Now, first of all, what is validation? Validation, that means what you have to validate something. Suppose you have one registration, you are doing registration. For example, for email only, suppose you are doing the sign up. Okay, so whenever you are doing sign up, there are some of the compulsory field that you have to fill. So that is what one type of validation. Suppose you are entering phone numbers, so in phone number field, suppose you are entering the characters, then you are not allowed to enter the character in that particular field. So that is also what validation. Okay. And suppose you are entering the password and you have entered just two characters in password. So and it will give the error message that minimum length should be six characters or minimum length should be 12 characters. So that is what one type of validation. So everything that you are going to validate, that is known as validation in JavaScript. And JavaScript is what? A client-side scripting language. So we can do the validation client-side only. So using the JavaScript, we can perform the client-side validation. Now let's start with the JavaScript validation. So data validation, our topic, data validation. Data validation is what? Data validation is the process of ensuring that user input is clean, correct, and useful. You cannot enter just blah 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 in that particular field. Okay, you have to fill a correct number, a correct string, so that your data will be perfect. Okay, now which are the typical validation tasks? Typical validation tasks are, it has the user filled in all the required fields. Okay, so has the user filled in all the required fields? That means whatever the field is mentioned, so you have to fill each and every field. Has the user entered a valid date? So for example, you are entering invalid date in your birth date, then also it will fire the validation. For example, only 35-year-old candidates can join this form. So it will check if you have entered the date that is very old, then it will fire the validation. So that is what, has the user entered a valid date? Has the user entered the text in a numeric field only? So as I give you the example of phone number field, suppose in phone number field you are entering the character, then it will fire the validation. Okay, you can fire the validation on any event. For example, you are entering some characters, so at that time in entering event also you can fire the validation. That means on text change event also you can fire the validation, or you can fire the validation on form submit, or you can fire the validation on the button click. For example, if you are saving the form and you are clicking that particular save button, so at that time also you are firing the validation on the save button click event on also. So this is all also what example of event handling. Okay, now here, has the user entered the text in numeric field? Then next, most often, the purpose of the data validation is to ensure the correct user input. Okay, so what is the purpose of this validation? Purpose of the validation is to ensure the correct user input in that particular field. So we don't have any not valid data in the database. Now, validation can be defined by many different methods and deployed in many different ways. We can define the validation in many different methods. We will learn about the regular expression also. So that is also the validation that we will see in the next upcoming lectures. Okay. So we can fire the validation on any way. You can use the if loop to check the length of that particular text box. Okay. You can use the if loop to check that digit entered in that text box is correct or not. So that is also what validation. You can define the regular expression. So that is also what validation. Now, server-side validation is performed by the web server. after input has been sent to the server. Okay, so this server side validation is performed by the server, web server, and client side validation is performed by the web browser before input is sent to the web server. Okay, so there is a difference here. You can see the server side validation is performed by the web server after input has been sent to the server, and here client side validation performed by the web browser before input sent to the web server. So server side validation we can do using like the PHP scripting language, that is a server side validation, and here we are using the JavaScript, so we'll do the client side validation using the JavaScript. Now next, HTML constraint validation. So HTML5 introduced the new HTML validation concept called the constraint validation. So this extra facility is provided in HTML5. HTML5 constraint validation is based on the constraint validation HTML input attributes, then constraint validation CSS pseudo selectors, and constraint validation on DOM properties and methods. Okay, so these are the ways in which we can do this validation using the HTML5. So anything that you are doing to validate, for example, for age or for numeric value or for email, so this everything is what a validation. Okay, so here you can see some of the constraint validations example. It has the disabled attribute. It specifies that the input element should be disabled. Okay, then max specified the maximum value of an input element. Minimum, that means a minimum value it specified. Then pattern specifies the value pattern of the input element. Then next is required, that means specifies that input will required an element. And next is a type, it specifies the type of an input element. So these are the some basic attributes that is available in HTML5. So we can use this in specifying the validation. Now let's see just one practical that specifies the form validation using the JavaScript. So let's see the practical about the form validation in JavaScript. So you will have the better idea about how we can perform the validation technique. Okay, so let's start the form validation example. So here I have already defined the form validation example. For this form validation example, first we will see which are the elements of the form is there. So here form is there in HTML form. Here the name of the form is registration form, and on submit it will call the functions, that is a return my function. On submit it will call this my function. Okay, now here in this form we have defined the name. Input type is equal to text, so this text input is defined, size is 65, and name is equal to name. So this name we will use to validate it. So it is used in the coding purpose in a scripting language to verify whether it is empty or not. Then same way here, address I have defined, input type is equal to text, size is again 65, then name is equal to address. Then next, email address. Okay, so for I have used again type is equal to text and name is equal to email. This should be the unique identification for each and every element. Then next I have defined password. Input type is equal to password, size 65, and name is equal to password. Then define the telephone, type is equal to again text and telephone. Here it is optional that you have, if you want to use the p tag also, that if you don't want to use, then also it is okay. Here this thing you can use in table form also, you can use the table over here. Then this is one select box in which it will display this value, select type text value, name is equal to subject. This we will use in coding, and we have defined this option BE, BBA, BCA, and BCom. So these four options will be available in your combo box. Then next we have defined comments. So comments may be, it will contain more than one line. So it here we have used this text area, calls is equal to 55, and name is equal to what comment. Now here we have displayed two button, that input type is equal to submit, that value signed, and name is equal to submit. And then next I have used one other button, input type as a call to reset and value reset and name is a call to reset. So this will reset your form, and whenever you will click on this submit, it will redirect it to the server side. Now right now we are not doing anything regarding the server side. We are just validating this text box or this text area or this combo box over here. So right now we are just doing the client side validation using the JavaScript. So now you have the better idea about this form, and here this is the registration form. This text will be displayed when your document will be loaded. So registration form, and after that this every all these elements will be displayed. Now what will happen to define the JavaScript validation? We are just doing the validation for whether this that particular field is empty or not. Okay, and again we have to see the regular expression. So more validation we will see in the regular expression. Right now just see over here, I have defined one function, that is function my function. Then variable name is equal to document dot forms in bracket registration form and in bracket name. You can write this way also, or you can write document dot forms dot registration form dot name. Also, this is also the valid way to getting the value from the that particular element that is defined. So here I have defined this for numbers of variable in which I am assigning the value that will be entered by the user, or that will be if there is an empty element is there, then also it will assign to this variable name. Okay, email, then phone number, what for the subject, whatever we are selecting. So what choice is that, then password and then address. Okay, so here sequence is not same as whatever defined here, and that doesn't matter, you can use any sequence because we are exactly assigning the that particular value to this identifier that we have defined. Now just check it. So for that, what you have to do? If name dot value is equal to null, okay? If name dot value is equal to null, so that means what? If there is no any string in that particular element, then it will fire the validation. So it will display the window dot alert, please enter your name. And what you have to do? Name dot focus, you have to focus on that particular element. So whenever you will whenever user press ok on that alert box, it will redirect it to that particular element only where you have not entered, or where the element is empty. And what you have to return false. Okay, same thing you have to repeat. If address dot value is equal to null, then window dot alert, please enter your address. Again you have to focus on that, so user will type in that particular field and you have to return false. Same way for email, if it is empty, then it will display the error message and the focus is that, and return the false. Same way for phone number, for password. And now for selection box, for combo box, what you have to check? Here we are checking just a value property for each and every field, whether it is empty or not. But in combo box, we can't check the value property because combo box is already filled. Okay, so what you have to do? What dot selected index is less than 1. By default, its index is -1. That means less than 1. So here we can check what dot selected index is less than 1. Then alert, please enter your course. Okay, so that means please select your course. Here you can see just please select, not enter. So you will have the better idea. Please select your course. And what dot focus, that means it will focus, it will define the focus over there and return the false. If this validation is not there, then what you have to do? Return true. That means your form will be submitted. Okay, so this is what the form validations we are doing right now, just for the string, just for the element is empty or not. So just execute the spectacle, save it because we have just do the little bit change over here. Execute this. So here you can see this form validation is that, suppose I am not defining, not giving any value in this, and I'm just sending this form. So it will fire the validation. Let's see why it is not why it is not firing the validation. Okay, maybe it is not working because I have taken this code in the next line. So just do it. Just save this and execute this. Hope so now it will work. Okay, so it is giving you the error, please enter your name. And whenever I will click on this, it will give the focus to this. So you can see, I have written focus, name.focus. That's why it will directly redirect you to this particular text box only. So suppose I am writing the valid text next. Now again I am doing the sign. So it will give me again the validation that please enter your address. Suppose I am writing uh, just LJIT. Now do the sign, do the click on this button. So you have to enter the valid email address. Right now I have just defining if this field is not empty, but it will not validate my email address. For that, I have to use the regular expressions that we will see in the next lecture. And I'm defining the password. Okay, I have not used the password field that. So just check it and here just write down password. Okay, now execute it again. Name, address, now email address, Varsha dot C. Suppose I will not write at the rate, then also it will validate. Why? Because we just have checked for the empty string. Then password, okay. And here again, if I will enter the string, then also it will consider because we have not fired the validation for the uh, numeric value only. Now just do it. Okay. So please enter your course. So just press OK. Then here, suppose I am selecting the value BBA. Now for the comment, we didn't fire the validation, so comment may be empty. And here it will give me this your page was not found because we have not defined any URL in that particular button. So it will just redirected that page is not found. So now there is no any empty string is there, empty box is there. So it will give the value. Now please enter your password because password will be reset whenever we are moving on that particular page or whenever we are refreshing the page or whenever we are going back or we're going forward. So it will just refreshing. And if you will reset button, each and every field will be reset. So this is what the form validation using the JavaScript. Okay, so we have learned about the JavaScript form validation. Now in next lecture, we will learn about regular expression, how we can define the regular expression and how the form should be validated more perfectly, whether you have entered the number or not, whether you have entered the correct email address or not, and whether you have entered the password up to length, for example, 6 and up to 12, so between 6 to 12. So like this way also we can do the validation that we can do using the regular expression, and you can use the more functionality for the validation. Okay, so in next lecture we will cover about the regular expression. So till now, till that time, so goodbye. We will meet in the next lecture. Thank you for watching this video.